The push is on this federal election for pollsters to get it right. Pollsters learned the hard way during the last provincial election in BC, the Ontario election, and to a lesser extent, the Alberta provincial election, that the numbers they come up with don't necessarily match with results. Mario Canseco with InsightsWest joins us now for more. Mario, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Randene.
So I'll ask you this first of all. You know, with all the missteps in the last few provincial elections, are polls still relevant, do you think?
Absolutely. I think the reality of the situation has been there's a difficulty in getting the right sample, either if you do it online or you do it on the phone. And one of the things that we've learned and we've dealt with in the industry is to get as close to the election as you can. What you're finding now, for instance, is not necessarily going to be what happens in the election. And that is one of the lessons that we learned. You got to do it as close to the election day as you can if you want to get it right.
But we want to know now. That's the hard part, right?
Well, and we can tell you what is happening now, but it's not necessarily what is going to be happening tomorrow. I mean, tracking works very well. You need to make sure that you're looking at what is going on with the electorate. We did that very successfully at InsightsWest in the last Transit A plebiscite. We saw the yes ahead twice in 2 different months. They started to drop. They dropped all the way to 37%, and they got 38%. So you need to do that, but you need to be really sure that you're doing this as close to the moment when the people cast their own ballots. Otherwise, it's just data in the air that is not going to be relevant when you get to the election.
I know typically most of your polls are done on the phone, but is that changing, or are you going now more towards online polling?
I think the whole industry is really moving towards online. There are two reasons for this, especially if you want to get samples of a representative nature in BC or in a city or in the entire country. It's very difficult to have a sample frame that works on the phone at such a higher level. One of the reasons is that there's a lot of people who don't want to answer the phone anymore. And even if you answer the phone, the researcher might be looking for somebody who doesn't fit who you are. I get this all the time when I answer my phone. They want to talk to a woman 18 to 34, or they want to talk to a man who's 55 and over. So I need either an operation or a time machine in order to be able to fit that profile.
So why does online make it easier, and does it make it more accurate, or no?
I think it does make it easier because when you have an online panel, you already have asked people a lot of questions related to their age, their gender, their household income, their own voting behavior. This really helps immensely because you're not going to keep somebody on the phone for 10, 15, 20 minutes when you already know what you need to get out of them. It's been very accurate. I've been blessed this year to do 2 very successful election calls, one in Alberta and one in the Transit A plebiscite with InsightsWest. And you know, those are 2 reasons that really lead me to believe that we're on the right track. It's really a matter of knowing what to look for and to really not to concentrate on the horse race too much. It's ultimately about all of the other factors that are there. If you ask me about what we did in those 2 elections, I was more interested in the leadership numbers and in the way people felt about a TransLink to figure out what was going to happen in the election. It wasn't necessarily about the numbers. It was more about what was going to happen directly when it came to how people felt about it.
Keith Baldry is coming out with an article, I'm guessing, this week, and he talks exactly that about polls. And he kind of points out something interesting, is that you're going towards now pollsters more online polls, but older people who tend to vote aren't online as much as young people. So how do you get accurate numbers with this new system of going online?
Well, there's a confusion there because what we need to do when you have an online panel is to recruit it in order to make it representative of the entire population that you want to do a survey on. And to do that, you need a lot of people who are over 55, 35 to 54, 18 to 34. You need to recreate what the census tells you that Canada looks like if you want this to make perfect sense. It's not necessarily a matter where somebody who's 18 to 34 and is voting on a survey just because they feel like it is going to be more likely to answer it. If anything, those who are over 55 tend to have higher response rates to online surveys than those who are 18 to 34.
And that's typically who go out to vote as well. Is that not right?
Well, you know, it's a fairly simple way of looking at it, to go out there and think that if you're talking to those who are 18 to 34, you're wasting your time. There was a lot of commentary written after the last BC election that was very misguided on this fact. We saw it in the Vancouver election. Kirk LaPointe's numbers were very good with the over 55s. He didn't win that election because you need to look at it from the standpoint of the voting behavior. It's not just your age. It's also how likely are you to vote. Have you voted in the last elections? Without those numbers, it's very difficult to figure out what is going to happen.
Putting you on the spot a little bit, Mario, have you done any federal polls yet so far leading up to this fall campaign?
We did one a month and a half ago, and we're planning on doing 2 more, possibly 3 before we get to the election. We think it's important to be out there. There's a lot of other people in the industry who believe that we shouldn't even be doing this. We have been very active. We did Alberta, we did the Metro Vancouver Transit plebiscite, and we're not going to miss the chance to do the federal election and to do it right. Absolutely.
And so you're only planning to do 3 then, is that right? And how big are the sample sizes, and are you going to do it online?
We will be doing it online, probably about 800 residents. That gives you a margin of error of 3.5 points, which is the standard for the industry when you're doing BC-wide polling. It's a good opportunity also to look at the numbers, especially what I'm interested in looking into is how are you reacting to the leaders? Is this something that is going to be changing? When we did the Alberta election, the key to the exercise was to look at the PC voter. Were they going to be changing from the PCs in the last election to the NDP? And it really came into play when you were looking at Rachel Notley's numbers. So looking at the numbers of the leaders is probably more important to me at this point than looking at the voting intention.
All right. Mario, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for the opportunity.